Welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about Fsd subscription. This is something that has come up pretty recently. It had everything to do with the earnings call, and above and beyond, this was kind of the biggest surprise. Of course, there was no real details given, but Fsd as a subscription possibly coming by the end of 2020, at least based on Elon. And of course, let's not forget that's possibly Elon time, but we have no extra information on it. I have a few thoughts on it. Let me get into it. Let me explain to you guys what I think is going to happen. One of the greatest things about Fsd is its capability to give you all these little nooks, little features, little things that will make the car that much more special. Let's be honest, Teslas by far are very special without all the extra little goodies when it comes to full self-driving. Now, full self-driving is, when you're talking about full self-driving, there's a lot of little things involved into it. Let's go through some of those. So what is Fsd included? Now I have the notes right here. Basically, when you're buying your car today, you're getting Autopilot. This is something that you are going to get regardless of, well, you just basically buy the car, that's included. It enables your car to steer, accelerate, brake automatically for other vehicles and pedestrians within its lane. Fsd, or full self-driving capability, includes navigate on autopilot, automatically driving from highway on-ramps to off-ramps, including interchanges and overtaking slower vehicles. I'm going to get into that in a little bit. I happen to have that feature. Remember, I do not have Fsd. Auto park, both parallel and perpendicular spaces. Summon, your park will basically come find you. Summon is a great feature. However, that's really all that's involved right now in full self-driving. There is upcoming capabilities, which is going to be stuff like recognize and respond to traffic lights and stop signs, and of course, automatically driving in the city streets. I have my thoughts on that as well. But it kind of gives you an idea of what you're paying for. How much does this option cost? Well, in Canada, it costs about $9,200 plus taxes, I believe. And this is kind of an interesting scenario because that price right now, if you're going to go and buy Fsd, you are literally getting three key things, which is navigate on autopilot, summon, and auto park. It's wonderful. It's beautiful. I happen to have all three of those. So where is the subscription thing come in here? Well, everything has to do with the pricing. Everything has to do with the fact that not everyone can buy these right off the bat. It's a very expensive undertaking for people to just pay the money that they're paying for a car and then add another almost $10,000 to it just so you can have, well, summon, auto park, and navigate on autopilot. It's a huge undertaking for anybody. It will approximately add around $100 a month to your monthly payment plan if you decide to go down the road where you're taking a loan against buying the car. So why would Tesla come up with a subscription idea, and why now? Obviously, right now they would be coming up with it because, well, simply put, not a lot of people are paying for something like this. And if you go backwards in time, such as my car, for example, I have something called enhanced autopilot. So remember, autopilot currently includes, enables your car basically to steer, accelerate, brake automatically in your lane, right? And these things were different before. For enhanced autopilot owners, all the people who pay for enhanced autopilot ended up getting everything that you guys would be getting today in full self-driving and, of course, autopilot itself. However, what the older generation, I guess, or the old generation of Teslas prior to 2018, this is kind of around the same time that EAP also kind of disappeared, and it became autopilot and full self-driving. For EAP owners, such as myself, I do get navigate on autopilot, auto park, and summon, which is great. So where's my incentive, for example, to buy Fsd currently? It will cost me, believe it or not, an additional $6,000 Canadian to upgrade to full self-driving. What does this mean? This means I would get a full self-driving computer, but not necessarily the MCU. Now, there's a big difference between the Model S, Model X, for example. There is very big difference between those two compared to the Model 3 and the Model Y. the Model S and X have a different computer system, basically. Basically, Tesla right now relies heavily on us. They rely on our data, us using FSD, us using the auto park feature, us using Summon, us using Navigate and Autopilot, even Autopilot, us just simply using it. They rely on that data, on that particular data, for them to be able to improve all this. This is a big part of the picture here. And I think this is why the subscription plan is kind of being toyed with, because not enough people are getting FSD, not enough people are using it, hence there's not enough data keep coming in for them to collect to improve on it. It's just my opinion. I could be completely wrong on it, but it kind of starts to make sense. Tesla is also very aware that these prices are quite high. So by having a subscription plan, again, we don't know anything about it. We don't know how it's going to work. But my guess, if I have to take a wild guess on it, it's going to be somewhere between $150 to $250 a month. You get all the features. You pretty much use it as, let's say, for 1 year. And if you liked it, you continue on. Although that doesn't really make sense, especially for people holding on to their cars for a longer period of time. Now, this does not apply very well to people like myself, who have EAP, for example. For me, it wouldn't make any sense. I don't have full self-driving, but I already have pretty much everything you guys will get today in FSD. So let's talk a little bit about where this is going to make sense and why Tesla specifically thinks this might be a good idea, and what we can do to kind of change Tesla's mentality on this. There is a second option that hasn't necessarily been talked about as much, but I believe they're doing it as an option in other places, such as China, or at least they're experimenting with it. Well, first things first, with FSD, I think people are not going to be dishing out $100, $200 a month just to have these little extra features. This is a ridiculously hefty price, but maybe they're not going to do that. Maybe they're going to do $20 a month. Maybe they're going to do $50 a month. Maybe they're actually going to tell you can select your own options, such as maybe you really, really want Navigate on Autopilot. Well, maybe that's going to cost you like $25 a month. Maybe you're going to want, something like Auto Park. Well, maybe that will cost you another $25 a month. And maybe you're going to want, Summon. That's going to be another $25 a month. So they might just put it in that format where it's every option is $25 a month. And then you kind of get to pick and choose. I highly doubt they're going to do that, because they're simply going to insult people who already bought FSD. You have to remember that there's still a lot of people out there who did buy FSD. And there's a few people with multiple cars who already bought FSD. And so you're kind of insulting them by giving everybody these options now to pick and choose and go down that path. However, this is not impossible. Tesla has done this before. They've gone from a really crazy high price of the vehicle. Within 3 weeks, they lower the price of the vehicle, and then here's people who basically lost money on the vehicle. It's not impossible for Tesla to do this. I don't necessarily think that it's above and beyond their capabilities, but I don't think they're going to insult a lot of their customers, especially how hard they've been pushing FSD. With that said, they do have obviously the other option, and that is financing your FSD. And why this is really important is because financing FSD means that you're still paying that price that you normally would, so the $7,000, $9,000, whatever it may be, but you're spreading it out over a certain amount of time. Well, you're probably thinking, if you want to do that, why didn't you just do that when you bought your car? Well, a lot of people don't want to do that. And maybe you weren't in a position to be able to afford that kind of monthly payment where you're adding another $100 or $200, about $100 a month to your payment plan. But you're in a better place now where you probably, you'd want to do it. Maybe you just didn't want to do it. In my case, for example, I didn't want to buy FSD. I was very happy with EAP, and obviously over the past 2 years, that's paid off. And the reason it paid off is because I have every FSD feature currently, minus a few things. So with that said, Tesla is working on expanding their options for the customers. And I think that's kind of where they're going with all of this. It's not necessarily them trying to figure out how to, mess around with everybody who's already done certain things, such as paying for FSD. But rather they're giving their future customers an option. You have to remember, Tesla works a little bit differently than what your regular average manufacturers do. they kind of make changes on the go. It's a young company, so they're going to keep doing this. Yes, at times they make decisions that's going to basically just tick off a lot of people, but it is still a company, it is still Tesla, and they still can do that. So bottom line, I think when it comes to people who are going to be looking at getting FSD as a subscription plan, there's obviously not enough information for us to know what is going to be included in that. That's probably another year away before we're going to know this. In the short term, I think, in my opinion, EAP was a very good idea. I think they should have continued with EAP and with enhanced autopilot. That's what I have. And it worked out a lot better because with EAP, right now, granted, I don't have the city, the city stuff like the cones, the visualizations. But you have to remember that for vehicles prior to 2018, the MCU, which is the screen in the Model S's, was not able to deal with a lot of that stuff. So I have MCU 1.5. MCU 2 would be required for me to see the visualization, have games such as Beach Buggy, Netflix, YouTube, all those things. I would need to go with MCU 2, so I can upgrade to that. Interestingly enough, I recently have found out that you can upgrade just the MCU, not necessarily going down the path of upgrading the hardware 3 chip. Which brings me back to a very interesting point about this whole subscription plan thing. So if Tesla is going to introduce a subscription plan for FSD, is this going to be something that's going to be, overall for everybody, for all of their Tesla vehicles? I think not. I think it's only going to be active for 2018 vehicles or newer. In other words, any vehicle that has a hardware 3 chip currently. If you don't have a hardware 3 chip, the subscription plan, I highly doubt is going to come in play. And the main reason for that is you still need to have a hardware 3 chip. And more than likely, well, you don't need to have the MCU2, but you will need to have the hardware 3 chip. And so if you're subscribing for, let's say, a year subscription to FSD, they're not going to just hand you a hardware 3 chip. I think that's going to be out-of-pocket cost for you. I do not see that being included in it. Hence why I'm saying I think this is only going to be available for people who already have the hardware 3 chip. Or maybe for the older cars who already upgraded themselves either out of pocket or they bought full FSD. And this is kind of where there's so many gray lines, so many questions about this mentality of, well, FSD coming up as a subscription option. I don't think it's going to be for everybody. I don't think it's going to be for all the cars. I think it's going to be very specifically for any car that already has hardware 3 installed. All right, well, with all that said, I'm going to say thank you very much for your support. Thank you very much for your comments, your likes, your subscriptions. The channel is doing pretty well. I'm happy with it the way so far everything has gone. And I'd love to hear your opinions. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. And what kind of car do you have? And how would this come as a advantage or a disadvantage to you personally? I want to hear you guys' comments on that, because I think there's a lot of questions that Tesla is going to need to answer, and I think it's going to affect everybody differently. People prior to 2018 will probably be affected the most in this case. People after the 2018 models with the hardware 3 chip, I think they might be the ones that are going to benefit a little bit more from this. But let me know in the comments below what you guys think, and with all that said, drive safe, stay safe. Thank you very much for watching.